that of electing a woman. I wished that I didn't have to choose between them. I wished that I could vote for them both. I wished that I could vote for someone else altogether. I mostly wished that it was a different woman's name in front of me, one that didn't fill me with ambivalence and vague foreboding. I would never have imagined, as I stalled and fidgeted in that booth while a line of voters formed behind me, that 4 months later I would be ducking out of a cordoned-off press section in the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C., pushing my way through throngs of people in search of a place where I could cry in private. Behind a soaring column, I gulped out sobs of exhaustion and disappointment at the end of the campaign of the woman for whom I had not been sure I could vote, even seconds before pulling the rubber-covered bar to seal my choice. This book is an attempt to tell a story of change. Change that came to me, yes, but also to the country, to the Democratic and Republican parties, to the women's movement, and to the White House. Over a period of just a few years, it seemed, the United States, its assumptions, its prejudices, its colors, shapes, sizes, and vocabulary had cracked open. A woman, Hillary Clinton, won a state presidential primary contest for the first time in this nation's history. Less than a year later, a candidate for Vice President of the United States concluded her appearance in a national debate by reaching for her newborn baby. Whatever else there is to say about Sarah Palin or the reasons that her youngest son was on stage that night, that maternal reach was a roaring first in presidential politics. We have seen it once now. That means it is possible to see it again. In the first month of 2009, an African-American woman moved into the White House, which was built in part by slaves, as the First Lady of the United States. Michelle Obama is only the third First Lady, though notably the third in a row, to have a postgraduate degree. She met her husband when she was assigned to mentor him at the law firm where she worked. He is now our first African-American president. These are not small things. These are changes that have piled up fast, creating a world that our grandmothers could barely have dreamed of, that many of our mothers thought they'd never live to see. They're also changes that our grandmothers and mothers made possible, and that will, in turn, alter the landscape for coming generations. The events of the past few years provided a prism through which both past and future became briefly clearer. Though a presidential election is by definition a political event, the cultural shifts made visible and made possible in 2008 took place well beyond the scope of purely presidential history. For a time, it was very droll to credit Tina Fey with changing the course of the election and sealing John McCain's electoral fate with her deadly impersonation of his running mate. But Fey, who had made history some years earlier by becoming the first female head writer of Saturday Night Live, would never have had the opportunity to make this impact had there not been a woman running for vice president. Fey's most cutting sketches would not have been possible if another woman, Katie Couric, who had made history by becoming the first solo female anchor of a nightly news broadcast, had not been in a position to elicit unintentionally comedic material from Sarah Palin. And Palin, who had made history by becoming Alaska's first female governor, would not have wound up as a mark for Fey and Couric had she not been hired to sop up the tears and the votes of those who had supported Hillary Clinton's run for the presidency. Political breakthroughs begat cultural breakthroughs, begat comedy breakthroughs, begat political breakthroughs. The country was in a steady revisionist conversation with itself, with voters, with candidates, with pundits, with entertainers. It was a wild, dizzying ride. It is a poetic injustice that the drawn-out political marathon of 2008, a contest that at times seemed to drag on for decades rather than months, actually took place at breakneck media speed, and that it was narrated to us faster than we could absorb it. Once it would have taken years of retrospective investigative journalism to inform the American public of everything that had happened during a presidential election. In 2008, 24-hour cable networks and the Internet offered hastily crafted daily tomes. We were fed sloppy synopses and cartoonish characters at rat-a-tat pace. Many of us, struggling to keep up, were happy to just get the Cliff's Notes version. But in the ceaseless cycle of revelation,